Good morning. I am waiting on someone to come in. I'm working with someone on learning some of the healing tools, and we've been meeting on the virtual space and doing some work with that. So they are gonna connect in this morning. We have met twice before, and talked in general about looking at a different approach for dealing with the stuff that comes up in our life. And then we talked about some of the tools. We talked about sometimes being able to process the issues that we have in life, and that is challenging if we don't know exactly how to do that. Let me see. Go back. Okay, I am still learning the technology, but I think I can call them in this way. Let me send them a direct invite. We were connected over on Instagram. So let me go here. And don't know why it's not letting me send an invite. Okay, trying to get the other person in. We unfortunately did not join in together before this. So we're trying to connect up accounts to get him in the live here with me. So bear with me as I try to figure it out. They so anyway, the conversation began about how do we heal community, and sometimes that's directed outside at other people. And the reality is us. Like, we have control of us. And so learning tools that are life, learning tools that help us really process life when we got issues. And so that's been part of the conversations. This is kind of just catching you up. This is like third conversation in where we're going through some of the coaching tools that we use in the social tech work that we do. Let's see, did I get you in there?
I think so. Can you hear me? Yes, no, maybe so.
I can hear you. Let's see. Let me turn my volume up. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you.
Okay, awesome. Good morning.
Grand rising to you.
How are you this morning?
Living the dream as always.
Awesome. I hope it's a good dream, not a nightmare.
Never that.
Sounds good. So I was fiddling. That's what I was doing. But we've talked twice so far. Um, did some formal instruction, some training to kind of give you some tools. But I was leading in with, we get to that point in life where the way that we're doing it doesn't work anymore, and we're ready for change. Can you like speak to that from your standpoint?
Yeah, I mean, you only can take your healing journey so far on your own, right? Like, I mean, I've done meditation, yoga, different things like that, but just trying to unpack triggers on my own, but then you don't understand what's the underlining factor to what the actual trigger are is at that moment. Sometimes, I would think, oh, I'm triggered by how the person said it or what they said, but no, it was the fact that it reminded me of a moment way back when I felt insignificant. And that's why I'm actually triggered. It's not what's happening at this particular moment. So the thing is being able to get down to those baseline triggers and healing those things. Until you do that, I don't think you can really live a fulfilled life. So I mean, there's different ways of going about it, and I just think from what the conversations we've had so far, this is a method that I think I would want to start with, because I think this is something that is more uh cut and dry. It doesn't leave a lot of room for manipulating the results yourself. I mean, either you're gonna put in the effort to get to actually healing yourself, or you're not. You know what I mean? So, And that, I think this is more what it is. This is an effort based thing. So I mean, going to see a psychiatrist, you can kind of play with that if you want to, and they're getting paid, so they don't really care. You know what I mean? On the back end, they're getting paid, so for first and foremost, they don't really care. I mean, a lot of things nowadays, people are, and their incentive is the financial part and not the actual service part. But from the conversations you and I have had, you seem to be more focused and geared to the service. So that's why I was more gung ho or starting this process with you.
So part of it starts with the foundation. It says, if your thinking's twisted, and you're trying to go in a straight line and you're starting off with your thinking twisted, it makes it more difficult to get to the end, which is resolution. How do I resolve this stuff so this stuff doesn't keep affecting me? Something happened on the playground, 30 years ago, and it's still affecting my life. Some kid whose name I probably can't even remember, but yet it's still impacting my life. Like the first part was about, for me, this is my personal, was your thinking's off. And some of the people that have spent time trying to figure out, they're thinking about how we think, started throwing out this idea. Let's just look at this and see if this might match up with the problems that we have. And it was, our thinking is messed up. So that you can think about this situation over and over again, but if the way that you're thinking about it is twisted, it's like talking to somebody who's out of their mind on some substance, and no matter, you got to get some stuff straight on the beginning. And so we started with, have we been looking at trauma or our issues? What's causing our issues? Have we been looking at it in a direction that's not helping us get to the solution? Not that it doesn't help fix some things, it just is becoming not enough. We got more issues, we got deeper problems, we've got layers of stuff. And it starts with saying, what if we could think differently? What if we could change our perspective about what is happening or what has happened in our life? And part of this is about giving you a framework for how to do that thinking. But it requires us to look at trauma differently, because in a lot of spaces that I've been in that talk about healing, it's like, if you've had these checklist of issues, then you're traumatized. And some of those really annoy me personally, but if you've had this list of childhood adverse reactions, then you definitely have trauma. If your score is, above a 10, then you're really, really traumatized. And if you're at a 15, oh my goodness. And it's but that thinks that trauma is these little boxes of things, and we haven't really understood how trauma works. And I began to learn trauma is big and small. The effects of it are cumulative. And trauma can be something as small as a little playground interaction where someone says something about your hair and that damage sticks. And so what I began to realize was, first of all, trauma is anything that happens if my values are conflicted. If something happens that does not align with the values or the expectations that I have for how life should be happening in this situation or in this relationship or interaction, if that expectation gets misaligned with your set of expectations or your behaviors, that's trauma. That's a very different definition for trauma, because when you look at that, and if you just use that framework, this is the, if you have an open mind, if you can consider another alternative to the way we've been seeing things, because that sometimes it requires that. Some people are stuck in, this is the way it goes, because that's the way it's always gone. And it's like, how's that working for you? If it's working for you, cool. If it ain't working for you. And for a lot of people, processing life in the way that they've been doing it is not working for them. And so it's going back and looking at that definition and saying, okay, so this is anything that goes against what I believe in? What if my beliefs are off? We'll get to that later. But yes, anything that you believe in, your beliefs, your values, when someone conflicts with that, that is the ground zero of trauma. And what usually happens in those situations when something feels out of alignment with what your beliefs and your values are, you got two choices usually. Either you lean on the choice that says, I'm going to stand on my truth, or you compensate and the fear and the insecurities or the guilt that that's triggered, or the combination of things, then you begin to respond with behavior that's helping you not feel so afraid, helping you not feel so insecure, helping you not feel so guilty. And those behaviors are the drugs of choice. They are the things we choose to help us not feel those things. And what I began to realize was we think of substances as the drugs or the addiction. But when I began to understand this framework, it says trauma is the addiction. Anything that you use to get away from your truth. I don't want to feel this afraid, so I'm going to put up some defenses so you think I'm hard. And when I began to look at that, yes, and we layer substances on because we use them too, but we also use things like shopping. We always use things like ultra control. We use defense mechanisms. Maybe I'm a jokester. Maybe the jokes are what I do to help me not feel so insecure when you're talking about me. And if I practice those behaviors, they become my first nature. So anything, if insecure is my issue, if needing for people to needing to feel respected is my issue, anytime something even remotely triggers that area of my hurt, I'll go to a certain set of behaviors, and before long, those behaviors become the patterns that you reach for without even thinking. They're the drug of choice. And when I began to realize that, it was, wait a minute, so if anything I do conflicts with my values, so I've been lying to myself. Let me just tell you, I just been lying. I ain't that bad. Those issues are because of somebody else, not for me. Wait a minute, hold on, that's not true. If lying is a part of my value system and I lie to myself, I'm the one creating damage in my life. And so when we look at it that way, one, it forces us to take some personal responsibility. And in our current society, accountability is not always welcomed. I can't blame this all on you. And you mean I got to take responsibility for the damage that's happening in my life or the results of what I pull for when I'm trying to avoid these things. And those things don't go away. So when I come back to my sane mind, the stuff is still there. Matter of fact, it's worse because now I done some stuff to make the situation worse for myself. And part of it is getting to that point. I love the quote by Fannie Lou Hamer: when you get sick and tired of getting sick and tired, you probably change. You know, when you get sick and tired, when does change happen? When you get sick and tired of being sick and tired, when it's too painful to keep doing it that way and you're ready for change. And that's that point of commitment with healing, to say, you know what, that ain't working. I don't know what might work, but I ain't fit to do that no more because it ain't working. And so when I began to understand that, it was, wait a minute, where do we start? Well, the first thing is, can you be honest with yourself? Of course, really? This is the emotional equivalent of standing in front of the mirror, taking it all off. For men, a little bit easier sometimes. For women, that's the hair, that's the all of the costuming that life gives us the opportunity to wear. Take everything. If you had to get down to who you really, really are, we understand that in the physical. But it's looking at the mirror and saying, self, let me be honest with you. You know, let me be real honest. Let me actually look at things that happen and see how much I'm involved in that process. And then it's understanding the limitations. I can't heal for you. If you go against my values, if I choose to interact with you, that could cause me trauma. Now, I can't control your behavior, but I definitely can't control mine. And so if I can simply reduce part of who is creating trauma in my life, I start getting better. And so with that end, it was, how do we learn how to think differently then? If the way we're thinking is a product of our damage, how do we have a way to think that helps us actually think through what's happening or what has happened and heal it? And so we started with that foundation. Those are the base of this process and how it works and a little bit of why it works. And so we start with something happened. Something happened that triggered an emotional response. Usually before you can mentally think about it, if we're really connected with our body, we feel something is out of ease. You hear people talk about, ooh, the energy didn't feel good. I don't know if they feeling it or not, maybe. But usually our emotions create a physical response. You tense up. Before you even know something's going on, you walk into a space and you tense up, or whatever. All of a sudden, you're feeling agitated about a situation. Before, wait, why am I angry? What just happened? Wait a minute. And so the first trigger is like football has a good analogy. It's you're living your life, you play in this game of life, and something happens, and there's a flag thrown on the field. It's like, hold up, here's a moment, hold up, we got a flag here. That doesn't mean that there's an offense. Doesn't mean that there's a violation for you. Doesn't mean that there's trauma. But it does say, you might want to pay attention right here. Something's going on that's not quite in alignment with you. And that's the opportunity if we can stop ourselves from going left field. Because if we're triggered and we're not in control of ourselves, our emotions are in control of us, before you know it. My uncle used to say 38 hot. For some people that's, of a little bit older age, you kind of understand what that means. Before you even know it, you done gone in left field. And so this is, if you know that potential is to happen, and you know that if you operate in that mode out of your damage, you're going to make it worse. First person you're going to make it worse for is yourself. Are you responsible for you? Am I making my life worse? Yep, your behavior is. But I'm entitled to do whatever I want to. Absolutely. And if you're doing things that are damaging you, do you want to stop doing that? Doesn't take away your freedom, but are you thinking about what you're doing? Are you really thinking about what you're doing? You're doing that and causing damage to yourself. Social media is interesting. And I've been learning some of these platforms to be able to share this work. But I'm having to be really careful, because as I go into some of these spaces, like, it hits me on the interactions that are happening. And it's like kids on the playground, and one person is mad at somebody, and then they get their posse around them, and their posse amps them up, put a battery in their back. And now the whole group is mad at that one person for something that may or may not have happened, something they heard or thought happened. And then they all run over, and it's like, wait a minute, hold on. So you're angry at this person for hurting you. So instead of you dealing with feeling hurt and setting some boundaries, you instead, because you got to get back at them, go and cause more damage to yourself because you're mad at them. And then you say, is that logical? Well, but no. Let's go to the core. Is hurting yourself, damaging yourself because you're mad at somebody else for hurting you, is that logical? And I say that is why trauma is the addiction. We do things that don't even make sense to ourselves. We do things that are not in our best interest to ourselves. Yes, other people hurt us and cause trauma, but we also do it to ourselves. And if you can't control nobody else, you can control yourself, and that begins to reduce the damage. The damage that you do to yourself repetitively, and the damage that happens when you interact with people from your unhealed place. And so that's where we start. That's some of the why. As you have understood that in our past couple of conversations, how has that helped you tweak your thinking and your perspective as you have been interacting with life?
It's I ain't gonna lie, it's made it a lot easier to like just set boundaries, because I would say recently I was dealing with someone who kept overstepping boundaries, like I told you about how with my time, and how they felt like they could, I guess, control my time or demand when I was available to them, or if I was available, or if I was doing something else, they would expect me to stop doing what I was doing to talk to them. And the first couple of times it was just like, I don't like that. And then I processed why I didn't like it. And then I was able to express to them the fact that I didn't like it, that I own my time. You know what I mean? I'm not trying to be disrespectful to you or anything, but we just need to get an understanding going forward from here on out. I own my time. So if you hit me up, yeah, sometimes I'm going to respond right off the bat, and sometimes it might take me a minute. you know, you may feel you're more important than whatever it is that I'm doing, but I may not feel you're important, or at that moment, I might not feel whatever it is that you want to talk about is more important than whatever it is that I'm doing. And if you can't respect that, then you're not the type of person that I would like to continue getting to know. And that person got upset by it. But, you know, I just felt like, you know, if I could express it to you openly, honestly, and in a respectful way, I'm not cursing you out. I'm not dogging you out. I'm just saying, hey, this is a boundary of mine. And if you can't respect it, then we can't continue to talk to each other. If, you know what I mean? Like, if you can't respect that, then you definitely not the type of person I want to continue to talk to, period, point blank. And so, yeah, that's just right there. Because in that situation, I know for sure before talking to you or before getting them little small tools, I would have spazzed on them for,
That's where I was gonna go. So now
right.
let's put that situation on the shelf and how you handled it this time. Let's go back to pre-conversations. Like, tell me your normal MO. Tell me how it would have gone down. Like this to be honest, how honest can you be? Tell me before us having a conversation and you thinking from a different perspective, tell me how this would have gone down in your real life or how it has gone down in your real life in the past. Let's talk about the real.
Well, I would have, first of all, I wouldn't have taken
No, let's start with what happened. Give me a scenario. Give me and you can make it as generic as you need. This is social media, so you can decide how much of your
I mean,
business you want.
the person would have asked for my time, or I would have felt like they was demanding my time. And due to that, I would have got upset, right? And like literally, I would have been visibly upset, and my response would have shown that I was upset, and it would have been a response from emotions. I wouldn't have thought about it. I would have just let them know how I felt about it. It wouldn't have been, but it wouldn't have been expressing that you're overstepping a boundary. It would have been like, yo, who the fuck do you think you are? Like, it would have been more of that type of response. It would have been more, no, like cussing you out type of thing, instead of like just saying, hey, I get you feel you're important, or your importance. I'm not trying to take your importance away. I'm not trying to, like how I did it this time. I wasn't trying to offend the person. I was just trying to protect my boundary, and I learned a
Let's
healthy.
go through the process. Let's go through the process because we can use this process to see how we've done things, and then we
Right,
can use this process to do differently. So the first thing that happens, somebody hits you up. I want your time. I want your time now. Is that a general scenario?
pretty much.
You need to interact with me in the way that I want you to interact with me, and you need to do it right now.
Right.
And then you would have been, how dare you tell me what I'm gonna do? You don't. Da, 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 da,
Well,
da.
no. At first, I probably would have been like, I'm doing something. Like, I'm not. You know what I mean? It is what it is. Like my
So you
first.
would have first maybe given an excuse for why you
Right,
aren't
right.
available.
Like, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. At first, I would have been. It would have been more like a defense thing. Like, yo,
Okay.
like I don't understand why you're getting upset, or like, you know what I mean, hounding me about it. Like, I'm doing something else. You know, when I'm available, like I respond Johnny on the spot type of thing. Like
Okay.
it would have been more of a fear type of thing at first.
And did
Then
would the person have normally accepted that given the
no,
response and the tone of the response and the
no.
vibe you was giving
No,
back to them?
they usually would escalate that, like, oh, well, I get that you doing what you're doing, but like if you love me or if I'm important to you, like it would be more like a guilt trip or
Okay. Because we're talking about fear,
manipulation.
guilt, and insecurity triggers. Everything
Right.
boils down to that. Okay, so guilt would be used. How do you respond to guilt? Did that usually, you just let it flow off your back? What would be
Now,
your response to that guilt trip?
when you give me a guilt trip, it usually that's what's gonna make me mad. Now I'm
Oh,
gonna be
wait, hold on. So you're able to see from this point that guilt is one of your triggers.
Yeah, especially if
Okay,
somebody
okay,
guilts me when I know for sure whatever it is I did was not intentional. And if I
okay.
tell you, hey, it's not that way, and you don't accept that right off the bat,
Defense. That's defense, right? You start
yeah,
putting up a defense.
yeah,
You
now,
feel blamed for something and you start defending yourself.
right, right,
Okay,
exactly.
okay. Because
So
we're mapping out what has happened so you can see it, which means when your area of guilt was triggered, what was your drug of choice that you pulled from first? What behavior did you use to help you feel less guilty in that moment? Old behavior.
Oh, old behavior would be defend myself.
Defense.
Yeah.
If you know just from that scenario, this is for when we get to the what we're doing differently. If you know, this is how you use this tool in real life.
Right.
If I know that guilt hits me hard, let somebody
Yeah.
come at me and put a guilt trip. Oh man, that just tear me all up. And when that happens, my go-to behavior of choice
It's
is, what did
defense.
you say?
It's defense.
Now, if you have just that information, if you know that takes you to your illogical place, because now you that is the equivalent of you reaching for a hit of something.
Right. Pretty much.
If you know in your life right now, and you now know that because we're talking about it, if you know that defense mechanism is usually triggered by what
Guilt.
emotions? The guilt range of emotions,
Right.
and you have that behavior, your behavior, if you follow that emotion, is going to be behavior that's because of my trigger in this area. You don't have to know why you're triggered in that area yet to know that if you start seeing that behavior in your life, check yourself.
Right.
If you start seeing yourself run for defense mechanism, and you know that that is your preferred thing of choice, you now have information about you. And if you know that you are prone to act in that illogical way, because that's what you pull first, and you go into that mode of that addicted mindfulness, you now have a tool, a powerful tool for you. If you, why am I'm fixing to put this defense up? Wait a minute, hold on. I know that that's because I'm triggered. Wait a minute, hold on. Go to your logical mind. Start using the process, because I'm fixing to go down a road that's going to cause me potentially damage. And so as you begin to use this, even the incidents that you just go all left field and you causing them, it gives you information in reflection to say, I need to learn about me. What is causing me to behave in these ways that ain't working for my life? Going into that defense mode, what emotions did that trigger for you? About the old behavior. You now fired up because they done this to you, and you going into your defense. But tell me about what emotions that brings up for you.
Usually, the main emotion is anger because I'm upset with myself for defending myself over something that if this person can't, like, usually whatever it is that the person is coming at me about, it's usually completely, totally out of my character, right? So either you don't see me as a human being, like you around me every day, like especially if it's somebody who is like a platonic friend or a romantic partner, right?
Mm-hmm.
So whatever it is, whatever I did or I said that made you feel whatever you felt, right? People, usually when people express things to me, it's not you made me feel this way. See, if they were to say you made me feel this way, the guilt wouldn't come up. None of that
They
stuff
make it
would come up.
personal, though. They say you are this way.
Right. They say you did this or
And you in left field, man. You just all the way
yeah,
triggered,
because
huh?
it's like, hold on, you're accusing me of something just because you feel the way. You have a right to your feelings, right? But your
Mm-hmm.
feelings don't make you right.
Mm-hmm.
So
If you actually could live that, would you get upset with them then sharing their feelings about you, even if they were wrong?
no, if they
Yeah.
said my feelings, if they said this made me feel, if they actually said the word, this made me feel.
All right, so let's look at what that means, though. This system then takes you to the values, and we start analyzing it. It starts saying, okay, you know what you feel, and you got angry about this. Somebody was using guilt with you, and you got angry because they were saying something about you that wasn't true. Let's look at what the values of that are. So, if you then need to defend yourself, that means you are trying to convince someone that they are wrong. Is that true? Is that accurate?
Yeah, I mean, I guess
So,
you
so
are
let's
in a
follow that down
sense.
that road.
In a
If
sense, yes.
if I am trying to convince you that are wrong, is that because I believe that I have a right to dictate your feelings and beliefs about me?
No, I don't believe that.
So tell me about that behavior then. Why are you defending yourself when you pull up the defenses? What's the purpose of that then? Because pulling up those defenses, does that make you more angry or less angry?
It
You
makes me
escalate
more
the
angry,
situation.
actually. But okay, I guess the reason for pulling up that defenses is I don't like people having a negative outlook on me.
Oh, so are people able to have a perception of you that you don't agree with?
Oh yes, they are. They definitely are capable of it.
So you want to take that away from someone?
I mean, I shouldn't want to, but I guess
No, let's talk about the
somewhere.
real in those moments. This because you're in your logical mind now. I'm talking about when you're triggered.
Right.
Something makes you do this thing that right now in your logical mind you're saying, "No, I don't believe that." But let's talk about your actions.
Well, yeah,
If you are in the moment of that disagreement, a little bit
right.
of disagreement happening, a little tension in the
Yeah.
relationship, tell if you can go back to that moment, give me the explanation, because the answer is going to be, let me just tell you the answer. This is where I give you the quiz and give you the answer too. The answer is going to be, it don't make no logical sense. That's what the answer is going to be. But go on and tell me, when you're trying to wage that defense, that time or any other time that you're feeling misrepresented by someone, that their perception of you is inaccurate based on your perception of you, tell me what your defense is intending to do. What's your aim? What's your motive?
I guess try to. My motive is trying to figure out where did they process in their head to come up with that.
So, in the moment that you are yourself being injured in some way, you, instead of processing it for yourself, decide that you are going to be their therapist and you're going to figure out what their mind is thinking, what their mind was doing, so that you could figure out why they're treating you or why their beliefs about you don't match up with yours. Is that what you're telling me?
Pretty much, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Since we're rationalizing it, yeah.
Of course. Okay, we need to
Yeah.
just make it simple. Let's get to the simplest denominator. Isn't
Yeah.
that what the intention
Yeah.
is?
Yeah. Pretty much.
I
Yeah.
don't want you to think the way you think about me.
Yeah. I guess I'm
I
doing behavior.
want to control
Yeah,
your
yeah, behavior
thinking about
modification. I'm
me.
trying to do behavior modification, whether it's intentional or unintentional. I am
Absolutely.
trying to behavior modify that human being in that moment.
When we're operating out of our damage, it's a knee jerk reaction. Isn't that what addiction does? I don't want to do this. This is probably not good for me in my logical mind. But stress happens, and I need to get myself to a survivable level emotionally. I need to get
Yeah,
to a level that I can survive. I don't care what you're using. If you're using anything in that way, it's a drug of choice. It could be shopping, it could be makeup, it could be money, it could be control, it could be power. The issues that you begin to explain indicate what my issue is. When I respond in a way that's illogical, that's my stuff, especially when I'm doing stuff that's not in my best interest. It's, do I really understand? And so as we're going through that, if we begin to look at the values, this is the step 2 of the process, some of the values of your behavior. Now, oftentimes this doesn't match up with what you actually believe. And that's why we got a problem, because you're doing stuff that doesn't match up with what you believe. I decided that this person does not have the right to see me in a way that disagrees with how I see myself. This person, I am the person that's supposed to educate this person on a correct view of who I am and demand that they then choose this view of me. Why do I need to be in control of that? Who placed me as the appointed teacher of this particular person on that regard? Why am I taking away their right to see me as they see me? If that is how they see me, even if it disagrees with how I see myself, do they have that right? Wait a minute. Do I have that right to see folks how I want to see them? Or should they be able to dictate, you got to see me how I see myself? As you begin to think through it, the values are, do you really feel like you should control how other people see you? In your logical mind, what would your answer be?
heck, I don't think like that.
Yet in that moment, you felt guilty and you felt like you needed to control someone else because of what you were feeling. Instead of, now let's look at you. Do they have the right to not see you in the same way that you see you? Yes.
Hmm.
If they don't see you in the same light and they're willing to be honest with you and tell you how they see you, what response should you give them?
I guess thank you for enlightening
Thank
me.
you. Thank you. What
Yeah.
have they given you?
They give
They have
me
been honest and told you exactly how they see you. And what happens when you aren't on the same page with someone on a particular area? Who's responsible for setting boundaries? You. If you're in control of your life. Now, if you turn that control over to somebody else, that's part of the problem we got. I don't want to be responsible for setting no boundaries. Wait a minute, hold on. If I am telling you and presenting to you, or at least I think I am, that I'm coming to you in a loving way, I'm being honest with you, I'm being loving, and what you see doesn't look like love to you, we probably shouldn't do this part of life together. We're not in alignment right here. Instead, we want to control someone else when we have all control of that. If someone, boundaries are for the parts of our life where someone doesn't share the same values.
okay, so that should be the response then. So after all right, so if a person says like a situation, uh they send me a text message, right?
Mhm.
And normally I respond within 30 seconds to a minute if I'm not at work, right?
Before you even go there, am I obligated to respond to a message that comes in my phone?
No, I'm not obligated. I
No.
respond when I feel like
Is there a time frame that I'm required to respond to a message on my phone?
well, I guess yeah,
Let's go to,
proper
let's go into the
proper
value list.
proper etiquette is within 24
Based on
hours.
what? Wait, no, no. Based on what? Where does this rule come from? That's a rule. Where did this rule come from? Who made this rule? Is that your rule?
Yeah,
I
my
am
rule.
obligated to return every single message that comes to me within 24 hours. Is that the rule for your life?
Yeah, I for yeah, I
Because we
do.
don't place a judgment on your values. Is
Yeah,
that really what you
I
believe?
try to do
So
I try to respect people. If somebody sent me a message, if it's somebody that I deal with on a constant basis, yeah, just because I have respect for them, I would try to return that within a 24-hour period.
so you have a value system, because it doesn't matter what your values are, they're yours.
Yeah.
You have a value system that says I'm obligated to return messages within 24 hours.
Right. Yeah.
Is that everybody? Or is there some qualifiers
No,
to
it's
that value?
qualified. It's qualifiers on that.
Which people get that privilege?
I gotta talk to you on a constant basis for you to get that privilege.
Okay.
Like,
So there are certain people that I hold a value that if they message me, I will do my best and obligate myself to return the call within 24 hours. Okay, that's a good value system to set. Doesn't matter what your values are, because if they're conflicted, that's where the trauma happens. All
right,
right, so person wants that time and messages you. Let's follow your scenario out.
yeah. And so I didn't respond normally, but it also was within the 24-hour period.
Okay.
So within
So the other person had a different expectation.
patient, their
What was
value
the
was
other
different.
person's expectation? Now, this is the speculation based on their behavior.
Based
What did it appear that their value was?
that they wanted me to respond to messages within seconds of receiving it, I guess.
The other person expected to get an immediate response to their message. You should respond to my messages immediately after I send them.
Right.
Don't go any further. Right there. Do you see that your value and their value are not in alignment?
Yes, absolutely. So how do you voice that? Like, 'cause they have a right to their value.
You got to go through some more values. Okay, so now I see that we ain't on the same page here. Are there any other values in my life that help me decide what to do? Who gets to set the values for you?
I do.
Let's see. Do we need to know any other values to resolve this then? If my value and your value don't align, which one of us gets to decide the value that's in play in your life? Who
I
gets
do.
to choose that? Okay. So now let's take those three values. I want you to respond immediately. I will respond within 24 hours. But we're not in agreement. Okay, let's add another value to my list. I'm responsible for deciding how I spend my time. Or you can't dictate, you can't change my values without my agreement. How about that one? Does that fit into that value of I'm responsible for
For sure.
my time? So your value is here's how I respond. The other person's value is that. What kind of response? Just with those values, don't make it personal. She's entitled to have, or she, he, whoever you're dealing with, they're entitled to have their values, are they not? Because that's another value. Is this person able to share, to have values that are different from mine? Are they able to set their own values?
Definitely.
So they are entitled to have an expectation for you to respond in immediately. They can have
Exactly.
that value.
Yeah.
However, they can't control your value changing without your permission.
Exactly.
Yeah, I ain't got no agreement that says that that's going to be our share. I didn't say I was going to respond to you in that way.
Exactly.
Usually
That
we didn't talk about it. We
that
didn't have no understanding.
that
But
has not been negotiated. Like this is not a DS relationship, so that we have not had that type of negotiation.
and so if that's the case, at that point, before you take it any further, because see what happens is you go way down the rabbit hole and then you all twist it.
Right.
If you were able to pull your logical mind out, because you know you've been triggered,
Right.
you know you've been triggered. You start thinking about defenses before it even get out your mouth. Wait a minute, that's faulty thinking. I'm thinking through my addicted mindfulness. I'm thinking through my trauma. Hold on. What are my values? I get to decide. You can't make that decision for my life. Tell me what the conversation would be if you just know that bit of information about yourself and about their behavior to you. What could you say? If you were being honest at that moment, you could see clearly where the point of impact. We getting ready to have some trauma right here
Right.
because you
Right.
and me ain't on the same
I
page.
guess I could. I guess if I'm trying to de-escalate the situation instead of escalate the situation, I could ask a question.
No. If you're trying to take care of yourself, if there is something happening in your life that's a mismatch for your values, trauma's happening right now.
Right.
Now, this might be a small crisis, a small trauma, but trauma is happening. This is active trauma happening right now. What are you going to do? What's your goal?
I mean, I guess my goal is to set my boundary, but also to come to
No.
some.
Before you get there, no. Let's talk real life. If you are in an active crisis where you are being damaged, what's your first goal?
Oh, to stop the damage.
Isn't that logical?
Yeah.
Isn't that the simplest answer?
Yeah, for sure.
If you are actively in a situation, ground zero, and you are being damaged, your first responsibility, if you're taking responsibility for yourself, is to get yourself to a safe place.
Yeah, for sure.
Trauma is happening when your values are not in alignment. How much trauma? How long you stay in this situation? If you understand just that, and now you have this situation where you found a point where the two of you are not aligned, are you going to try to clarify those values? That would help you get out of this situation. Wait, you didn't really mean that, did you? You didn't really mean that you get to decide how I spend my time, right? You didn't really mean that, right? Because if I
Right.
clarify, no, that's not really what I meant. Okay, then we back on the same page, right? Isn't that one way to get out of damage?
Yeah. So
We
I
back
mean,
on the
I
same
guess
page.
so. You basically say you ask a question. Then you're not trying to control.
Because if you don't ask a question, you got to read their mind.
Right. That's
I'm
what I'm.
confused. Hold on. We agreed to be in a loving interaction with each other. If
Exactly.
we gonna have interactions, we're gonna do it loving. We ain't gonna damage each other. That's
Right.
my goal. Now,
Right.
if something just came up here, this right here looked like some damage. Hold on, wait a minute. Have we gotten off the same page, or maybe we didn't discuss this part of the page and decide if we're gonna be on it? But right now, I'm triggered. Something's happening. And as I look at it in this split second, I realize what's happening is you think you control. Your behavior makes me think that you are trying to control how I spend my time.
Ooh, okay, okay. I like how you said that because yeah, I don't want
But
to
you can control
accuse
you.
them. I don't want to accuse them of anything, but like your behavior is saying you want to control my time.
How I'm processing your behavior, because that's your truth.
Right.
I see what just happened, and as I interpret it, this right here looked like some damage getting ready to happen. And so now, because I'm not going to take responsibility for doing your work, what I'm going to do is add, I think, I think we done got off the page with this person. They must obviously think that they can control my life. That's what my head be saying. They think that they got control over my schedule. How they going to tell me how I'm going to spend my time? That's what I'm saying in my head.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying in my head.
Being honest, because we talking about being honest.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe they think that instead of me determining that I know what you're thinking, I'm gonna ask you some questions because I'm working on my emotional intelligence, talking my stuff out instead of expecting you to be reading my mind. And I say, pause, because I gotta stop some damage. I think there's a flag on the play of my life.
Yeah, and before we go further, and before I damage you and I damage myself. Okay, I see what you're saying. If this is
football and somebody threw a flag that there was a potential violation, do they keep playing the game? What happens?
No, you stop. You stop right there.
Don't go no further, because if we go further, what happens? Everything else becomes twisted. You done took the ball and run it to the other. That ain't true. No, come on, bring that ball back. Come on, bring it back. Here. We said stop right here. You still running. Don't nobody care you still running. We got damage here. What you gonna do? Build something on top of that damage? Does that make logical sense? No.
No, it don't. I see exactly.
There. You done built the whole second story on this funky mess of a relationship. And so, and you don't address it. You get mad, everybody fall out, and don't nothing get resolved.
Right,
so now you're there.
So that's how resentment, that's where the resentment comes in, because you don't never really talk it out and come to no real agreement.
It's you, because I didn't tell you what my boundaries are and set some boundaries for you. And I'm mad because you being you. I'm mad because you are being you.
So when people say that, because conversations, most conversations aren't going like how you're saying, break down the conversation, right?
Because we don't know how to think. But
people don't really be expressing
conversation.
Most people just be venting. So what you're saying is most people are just venting. They don't actually express themselves.
No, most people are in the midst of their addiction. You ever try to talk logic to somebody who own their stuff?
True.
But see, we don't see behavior as drugs of choice. We don't see that because we don't want to have to be accountable.
And you're addicted and they're addicted too, and both of y'all are using y'all addiction at the same time. So neither one of y'all can see the other person's point of view because you're coming from addiction,
and
not logic.
We both leave more damage than we got there. Do you see that in the relationships and interactions in your life?
Yeah, I actually, again, because of the first couple conversations, I went back and apologized to a recent ex on not being able to see them for them and seeing from the lenses of pain. You know, I literally had to apologize because, like, I literally didn't see them. They were a wonderful person. Like, they did have things that they needed to fix or whatever, like everybody does, right?
But it wasn't all the stuff you were saying that they needed to fix.
No, because if I could have just had a different perspective or different lenses on, if I could have put the hurt glasses down a few more times, or if I would have had these type of ways of breaking down of, okay, I'm hurt right now. What am I hurt by? Let's stop right here. Right here. Let's stop right here. Let's fix this moment and let's come to some type of, because then the person understands, or because then you're actually breaking down in facts and not in feelings. Things can be resolved because they don't feel personally attacked when you say, whoa, okay, hold on. I don't want to accuse you of something. I want to get to the root of what's going on here because I feel a way. And just because I feel, and again, because you're telling someone else their feelings don't make them right. Your feelings don't make you right either. So that's why I see why you're saying that's why y'all have to stop in that moment and pause and say, hold on, let's put the brakes on. We're not aligned in this moment, and let's figure out where we're out of alignment so each person still feels like their voice is heard in the situation.
You ever seen that? This is old fashioned games where you tie your leg to the other person's leg and then y'all got to run to the thing and come back. But
Yeah.
you got a leg that you're sharing in common that's tied together.
Right.
If you take that imagery and you're walking with someone in a relationship, now this is romantic or other ways in life, someone that you are walking a part of your life, you're sharing a part of your life with in some way. Maybe it's a business partner, maybe it's a lover, maybe it's a family member, whatever. Some parts of your life overlap and the two of you are doing life together in for those moments. And imagine you take a step to the left because you want to turn left and you haven't communicated that. And the person wants to take a step to the right, but they haven't communicated that with you. Do you see a potential problem in that from the physical?
Oh, for sure. Y'all gonna be pulling against each other.
If my value and your value don't align, we now recognize that we're at least one step away from each other. Away. Okay? You see that?
Mm-hmm.
Out of alignment. If we continue to go down those paths out of alignment, what happens? We take another step. We're still going in a different direction. I'm taking a step to the left, you taking a step to the right. We're now 2 steps away from each other in both directions. Can you see that visually?
Yeah, and you're putting more tension on that thing that's holding you.
Something tied up to your legs together.
Right.
A little bit painful, probably tolerable at this point. Got a
At
little
this
stretch
point,
to it.
it's not hurting that bad, but you're starting to feel it though.
Little, I'm kind of feeling a little,
Yeah,
little
you feel
something,
it.
little
You feel it.
something, little
Yeah.
something, something. But just a little discomfort. I ain't, in excruciating pain yet, right?
Right.
3rd step. That thing is stretched. That's getting kind of stretched, getting kind of tight. 4th step. Because you want to go your way and they want to go their way. And you guys say we're doing this together.
On
this
my
moment.
4th step, it started getting unbearable now.
A little bit painful now, huh?
Mm-hmm.
A little bit more intense now, huh?
Yeah.
What options do you have right this moment? What options do you have? Give me some solutions on what you could do to fix this.
One of y'all could step towards the other person's direction.
That's one possibility. What else could happen?
Fall to the ground.
What else could happen? Crash and burn. What else could happen?
The other, yeah, I mean, see, that's the only thing that's gonna happen. Either y'all gonna fall, the rope gonna snap,
Or y'all pull and pull till you break each other's leg.
legs.
You both end up damaged and limping.
Yeah.
The exact same thing happens in our relationships.
But
If
it's
we
just
are
emo-
trying
it's
to
just
do life
emotional.
together,
It's just emotional damage each time, and it's not physical breaking of ligaments, but you're emotionally you're
it
destroying
depends
people.
on what drug of choice you use, doesn't it?
This is true because some men do use their hand. Well, I got to stop saying that because some women use their hands too. Because both
What
men
other
and
ways, what other things do we pull from that could cause physical damage? Come on, look at the news. What's happening?
people shooting people.
You look at me, and I feel like I should control whether or not you can look at me. And what do? Pew, pew, pull my thing out. Because I'm going to show you that you ain't got the right to look at me because I'm going to decide what you're going to do. You looked at me, and now I feel disrespected.
Your music
And
was too
so
loud, and I didn't like the
I'm
type
going
of
to
music.
respond.
You,
I feel
you,
better now.
I didn't
feel
like the type of music you was playing, so I killed you, and it was too loud. I saw you get into an accident, but I didn't know you were having a medical emergency, so I shot you because I thought you were fleeing the scene of a hit and run driver. Like, yeah, it's all type of things that people see, and because of their hurt lenses. Man, this could be very, very useful for a lot of people. That's why I'm glad. That's why I'm saying. That's why I want to keep doing this because the thing is, it's breaking down. Like, this can be used in every situation. A lot of things that you hear in therapy or whatever, right? You can't use in everyday situations. But this in everyday situations, you can be like, okay, I'm hurt right this second. Pause. Pause. Hold on. Stop. Wait. something's going on here. I don't know exactly what it is, but I
There's an
heard.
active crime happening right
Right,
now.
right, right. And
It's
before
real.
we go any further, or you do anything, or I say anything to make this any worse than what it is right this second, let's figure out what it was. Was there intention behind what you just did? Because if it wasn't, I perceived it as there to be malice behind there. So we need to understand, because I don't believe you're the type of person to do this in a maliceful way. But I
My
felt like
image of you is being conflicted right this minute with your behavior. I see you a certain way. This is the expectation of who you are that I'm holding, and your behavior does not match up with that. Aren't we talking about the same exact thing?
yeah.
Every situation in life is about how are we thinking about this situation. Part of the problem is not the other parts, is we can't think in ways. If you are thinking through your damaged mind, our mind gets twisted when we get damaged by people. Our thinking gets twisted. Trauma is the addiction. We act like someone who's addicted. I had an addicted person. All of my childhood growing up, they were addicted to a substance. They weren't in their right mind. That's why we couldn't leave them at the house when we left. When we leave, you got to leave too. Why? Because you steal stuff. That ain't your right mind. But what's running your life is the damaged part of your emotion, and you will reach for anything to keep you feeling like you can survive the level of guilt and fear and insecurity that begins happening when you get triggered. I will reach for anything to take it down a level to where I feel like I'm back in control of myself to some regard. But if you're pulling things that's also adding damage, it's like saying, you're hurting me, so I'm going to take poison to make it better. I'm going to do this. I'm getting you. I'm going to, on social media. Here's some of the ways that sounds. You do something to me, I'm bringing you to smoke. Explain to me what that actually means. Do you know that vocabulary?
But bringing the smoke, they want the
Yeah.
smoke.
Explain to me
Yeah.
what that means.
I mean, that could be a physical attack. That could be a verbal attack. That could be getting you fired from your job. That could be all type of stuff. The
That means
smoke
I'm
could be,
going to do you some damage right now, right?
yeah.
Emotional damage, physical. I'm getting ready to do some damage
I'm
to
gonna
you,
send
right?
you. Yeah, for sure.
You've just damaged me. And by you damaging me, I feel wronged. Yet, I'm going to now do the same thing to you. I don't believe that I should be damaged because that's why I'm mad at you. But I'm going to do the same thing to you. If I do that, yes, I'm going to damage you. Mission accomplished. Who else are you also damaging at the exact same time?
Well, if you're a rational person, you're damaging yourself. But most people don't rationalize that.
Does it still happen? Whether you rationalize it or not, the damage still happens.
Oh, it
Most
still
of what's
occurs.
happening right now, you don't in society. It's not
That's why
being,
you can't. But that's why they can't fix themselves, because they go further and further and further into the damage and further into the delusion. So you can never
and
fix
who's doing the
yourself because you
damage?
can't
Who's
see
doing the
yourself
damage? Who's doing the damage? You the one
for
with the smoke.
themselves. Yeah, they smoking themselves. They giving their own self all the smoke. That's
But
why,
don't we
like,
rationalize it? Don't we say that we really are making ourselves better? Isn't that
yeah,
what we're saying?
they think they feel well. They feel like they feel better because in their mind they've gained their respect back by doing that. But if they really
It's because
think
now
about it,
that person respects you more, right? Now that
yeah.
person respects you
Right.
more.
But and if they
Do
really
they
think
really?
about it, that's why I ask these questions to people like that when they be like, "Well, yeah, this person was blah blah blah," and I'd be like, "But why would you attack them in any way, whether verbally or physically? Like you just proved their point. You didn't do like okay, yeah, you feel better." But they still now they're justified in however they felt about you, when you could have just walked away and let them felt like I just saw a TikTok the other day of let people be wrong about you. Like, and that is so true. Like, just let people be wrong. Like, I
But I
don't,
can't. I got to respond.
yeah, like, no,
I
bro,
gotta
whatever, bro.
respond.
Like, whether you're close to me or not close to me, whatever opinion you have of me, you have a right to that opinion. I may have misrepresented myself to you, or you may just be viewing me from lenses of trauma. But either way, I want grace. So I'm just going to give you the grace that I want, whether you're going to give it to me or not. I don't care. Love is what I'm supposed to give, and love is how I'm supposed to leave. And because I want love, I'm just gonna give love out. And if it don't never come back to me, oh freaking well. I did what I was supposed to do, and I don't want to die with any regret, or I don't want to be walking around or die early because, oh, somebody wronged me in the third grade, or my dad left when I was 3 and never was in my life. So freaking what? Oh, wow, you're in your 40s now. You're still worried about your dad did this, or your mom did that, or your sister did this, or your brother did that. Like, come on, man. Like, when
But
you
it's
gonna let
also,
that
hold
go?
on, it's also though, this is the pendulum swing that sometimes you go too far. Because sometimes, because we're doing the work, we now become judgmental of others. The reality is they're doing their best.
They
What
doing what
you
they
see
can.
is their best. And if you understand that, you begin understanding that so am I. I act like somebody with special needs when I'm operating out of my damage. I act like somebody who got special needs.
You,
If
I
I
mean,
see someone who's got a disability, you're in a wheelchair and you run over my foot, I'm less likely to respond in offense because I say, I got grace for you because I might have been too close and you were trying to maneuver and it's wonky and my bad, But what happens when we see people and their behavior, it's supposed to tell us the same thing.
right,
Wait a minute, I see you responding, and if I'm giving you love, this is the equation. This is universal equation. If I'm giving you love, and the response that I get back is not love, something's wrong.
right,
Something's wrong. Either I'm not giving love, or something's wrong with you. There's no other option.
right,
The response for love is supposed to be love. That's the mirror reflection.
right.
If I give love in that mirror, love is what I'm supposed to see. If I see me in that mirror, is that loving? Well, no. You and all your smoke self, is that loving? If you aren't operating in the loving place, that's why you got to look at me first. If I am acting in a loving way with you, okay, so first step, am I acting in a way that's loving? And loving is about being honest. If I'm being honest with myself, then I can be honest with you too. I honestly don't think you have the right to make decisions for me. That's my value system. That's my truth. If I'm being honest with you and I give that to you and you come back and you're not loving to me, something's wrong. Something's wrong in that I'm giving you this love, but you're giving me something else back. Something's happened in that transmission. There's something lost in the translation. Which one of us is it? Or is it both of us? And when we begin to see it's, oh, you share a different value and now you're angry. You're angry that I'm not letting you dictate my time to fit your needs because I put my needs honestly on the table. If I violate my needs, if I'm dishonest about that, and it doesn't mean you act on everything, it means you make a choice on what you act on. And when you choose to act on things that violate your own values, then you just accept the consequences. If you're going to take the smoke, take the smoke. But understand that when you do that, you're causing damage to yourself. What's your commitment to yourself? So this process doesn't change your behavior. It helps you to find the areas of damage and heal them. Because if those areas are healed, then you have no need to respond in those ways. The triggering stops happening. In this situation now, the next time somebody comes and says something, if you can stop yourself and say, hey, self, you're getting irritated. What just happened? Step one, what just happened? They just told me that this is how I'm going to spend my time. Oops. But as you begin to learn the process and it becomes your replacement first nature, initially it's behavior modification. You have to choose. If it's to go down left field, I'm going to choose my logical mindedness because my mind right now is telling me to operate out of my guilt and I want to just do this thing. I'm not healed yet there because I am being triggered. So now, instead of me following that behavior, let me pull my logical hat on. Self, step one, what just happened? What are the facts? This person told me Because I don't have to figure out what their intent is. You told me that I should do something. You don't have the right to tell me what I should do. You can tell me what you would like for me to do. I really wanted you to call me immediately. I kind of had gotten used to you doing that, so it kind of became my expectation. But I do not have the right to dictate that for you. So I'd like to talk to you as soon as possible because this is something really important to me. Would that be a different way of dealing with it? Using the steps. So that's if the other person is using those steps. That's what it might sound like. I'm feeling irritated because he didn't return my call. Okay, self, what happened? I sent him a message and 5 minutes later, I don't have a response. Okay, self, what's my value? I want him to, I want him, my expectation is I want him to respond immediately. Because that makes me feel a certain way that I like feeling when he responds to me immediately. It makes me feel in control. Wait a minute. Okay, hold on, self. Self, do you need to control somebody else? Uh-huh. Yeah. I want to be in control of this. Because I don't want to accept that he's not going to do what I want him to do. So I want to be in control if I'm being honest. Okay, self, if you know that's the case, is that a value you really believe? No, I don't want nobody to do that to me. Nobody in control of me, but I'm trying to be in control of him. Okay, that's my damage, girl. That's your damage talking. Okay, self. Okay. So I may want to be in control of him now. Let me choose my actions. Because if I take that stance, I'm getting ready to traumatize me. So, okay. Let me think this through. He don't have to call me back. He ain't obligated to call me back. That's the real. I really want him to, but he ain't obligated. Okay. So he's exercising his right. Now, I can decide if that's good or not for me. I want to be involved with someone who's that responsive. I want that level of responsiveness. This person is not giving me that. We got a problem. This person is not meeting that expectation. So either I change the expectation. He ain't got to answer me immediately. He may be busy. Wait a minute. I don't believe that. Yeah, you message me whenever you want to. And if you take too long and that's not acceptable for me, I part company. That I can control. And it ain't personal. You have the right to do what's working for you in your life. And so do I. And it's not personal. But if it doesn't match, let's make a decision. Let's make a decision that doesn't damage us both. I need a person in my life that's a little more responsive. I want it. That's my truth. The person doesn't have to agree with that. I want someone who be on it because that makes me feel important and I want to feel important in this relationship in that way. Now, if you don't agree with that, what's your side of that conversation?
That,
What's your values? What part of you can you control in that situation?
that's basically what I said. I basically said if you need someone to make you the most important thing in their life, that is not something I am capable of doing.
I ain't putting that on the table. I ain't offering that.
Like I can't give you that. I'm sorry. I I
Mhm.
am I am a polyamorous person, so you know I have more than one partner. Like I'm not lying to you. You absolutely know this from the jump that there's more than one person that I'm dealing with. So
Mhm.
I cannot be Johnny on the spot all the time. But I will answer you as soon as I possibly can. And that is what I have always do. When I am free, my phone is in my hand. I'm looking at it. The message comes in. I can answer right then and there. If my phone is in my hand and I am watching a YouTube video, I might have saw the message, but the YouTube video, I was watching it. I'm not going to just stop my video to come answer your message unless it's something important. Again, no one should ask those type of things of another human being. I don't ask that of you. I would like you not to ask that of me. Period. Point blank. And I also probably would add um, again, if something that I do makes you feel a particular way, I would only ask you to ask me a question to get clarification on whether it was intentional or unintentional instead of making an assumption on whether my behavior was a particular way because it made you feel that way.
So you've shared with that person how you want to be interacted with.
Yes, exactly. And
They
I
make
did
sense.
I did that exactly what I just said to you. I expressed that to them before the last
Did that
so
feel honest? Did that feel honest?
yeah, it did. That's why I
And
was glad we
because
had the
it felt
conversation.
honest, could you stand firm on that, whether they
I
liked
did.
it or didn't like it?
I did. That's why we're not talking anymore because the last time they did it again, I literally was like, hey, if you need someone to be the most important thing to you, I am not that person. You need to go find someone who can give that to you. I don't feel any type of way about you. You know, you're a great person, but I just don't have the bandwidth to be that for a human being. That's why I'm poly. So that other person
Part
can
of
find
that
someone.
is exactly the benefit. Do you realize that nowhere in there did you have to judge the other person and their
Yeah,
values? You
exactly.
simply state, here's what works with me. If that ain't cool with you, cool.
Cool.
We all have preferences.
Right.
I believe we are entitled to our preferences. If I prefer people who interact with me in a certain way and you don't, I can prefer not to have that part of my life interacting with you.
Exactly.
And if you don't do it, no, let me rephrase that. I am responsible for deciding the boundaries in my life.
Right.
That's not something I delegate to other people because that's the other thing that we do. Now, I want you to act in this way. Okay, well, when they didn't act in that way, what did you do? Well, so your boundaries don't mean nothing. Or my boundaries mean something, but I can't live them because then my trigger gets there and I'm using them as a fix for my loneliness. I'm using them as a fix for my low ego, my low self esteem. I'm using them in some way that's not healthy. They're my drug of choice too. And then we interact in ways and we stay in situations that don't make a bit of logical sense. But if we're operating from our mind, and I'm a firm believer, trauma is the addiction. You don't try to talk logic with somebody who just doesn't take a hit. You trying to help them change their life. They own it. But
And
we
I
do.
guess that's probably why the person reacted the way they did because they were definitely in their drug of choice. And I was speaking logically to him because I literally was like, hey, I'm not trying to be mean or anything. I'm not trying to take anything away from you. You have every right to feel like I was intentionally ignoring you. Like, again, I'm not trying to take none of that away from you, but I also can't apologize for behavior that I know wasn't intentional.
So let me explain part of the process. This is some of the why. We back at the leg race. We separated. If you are in your logical mind, that's you like you coming back to center. Let me get back on let me get back on this center path.
Yeah.
And you have the opportunity now because now I'm in my loving state. I'm in my logical state. If you now, I'm back at center, ain't on the ledge, not operating in my addiction, got my steps because that's my help until I learn this as first nature. I got to
Right.
have some help. Step one. She say step one. I'm supposed to right now stop. Okay, what just happened? What are the facts? Okay, what is happening that matches what's my values? What's conflicting with my values? That's my ground zero. Okay, some damage is happening. Okay, before I go in left field, fixing that damages, let me come back to center. Because if I'm loving towards them and they still don't respond in love, we got a problem. We got a problem. But my conscience is clear. Okay, so now I'm back at center. This if we are going to continue to walk together, we got to both come back to center, right? We got to have some resolution, bring us
Right.
back, we get on the same page. And
Exactly.
if I'm doing that and that person still does not, they're still going in their direction, whatever those values are that don't align with you, that's the other direction. They're still going that other direction. What do we do when someone doesn't align with our values? We put boundaries in place. I've come back to center. My conscience is now clear. I've given you my truth. I've told you what my expectations are if you want to interact with me. And now let's see if you'd like to come back to center. Your choice. But if you don't, I now understand that I have to put a boundary here. Because if I don't, and I let you continue to walk with me, you are causing me damage. Am I taking responsibility for taking care of myself? What's my first commitment? Do you see that logic flow?
Yeah.
In this situation in the relationship, when you came back to center, did that other person come back to center, or were they still
they,
operating in that addicted mindfulness?
they were still in their addictive mind frame.
Now explain to me the boundary that you've put in place because they did not get back to the center of your walk. What's the boundary?
Oh, we're not talking anymore.
I took away your access to me.
Yeah.
Because they could still want to talk to you. What have you decided? Until we can get back to center and this thing quit pulling me, you try to pull me off track in the other direction. I didn't just come back on track from the other direction, and you trying to pull me in the other direction. And so I can't let that happen if I want to stay centered in my life, honest. I want to stay in my truth.
Right.
I can't let you keep pulling me that direction. And matter of fact, it took me too much to get back to center on my side. And so I have to, this is the most loving thing I can do, set a boundary, because the first person I need to be loving is me. And for me to be loving, I now understand that if I don't put a boundary, I am ushering in damage. Are you responsible for the damage? Absolutely. But am I responsible for you coming in and getting ready to damage me and I just stand there and let it happen? Does that sound logical? No.
It does not.
And so boundary setting, but it ain't fair. They should do me right. Yeah, they should. They should. In this, who
They
makes up that
should,
rule? What they
but they
should do?
ain't. So
They
since they
being who
ain't,
they are. They
right.
are who they are. I don't care what you think they should be. What you see is who they are in this moment. And if they are in their damage in this moment, this is like you trying to talk logic to somebody who didn't. And so the loving thing sometimes with people who choose not to get back on center with you is a responsibility. If you're taking your responsibility of taking care of yourself seriously, is to say, I have to put a boundary here. You are causing active damage. It ain't but a little thing. I don't care. I don't want a little bit of poison. A little bit of poison, big poison, it's still poison. It ain't but a little bit. I'm trying to get the poison out of my life. And if I got to keep dealing with damage, I got to first stop the damage from happening for me to then deal with the past damage. How do you turn the gas off? You got fires everywhere, but you won't even stop and get to the core. Wait a minute, this person keep causing damage in my life. And then I get triggered and then I damage me and damage them. So now we both worse. We less capable of doing this together because we both damaged. And so part of this is regaining responsibility for your life. If you're operating from your damage, your emotions are in control. You're not. You're not. If I can trigger you, I'm in charge of your life, not you. You made me mad, then I'm in charge of your life. If I can choose which emotions get triggered in you, I'm in charge. You ain't in control. There's a whole lot of this going on. I got to make you do this to me. If I have to make you do this and then you're triggered when I don't, I'm in control of you, not you. I know you think you big and bad, but you really are showing me your damage. Let me put some boundaries up because you about to damage me. And fixing damage is too much work. I'd rather stop all the damage I can. I got enough damage I got to fix. Let me stop the damage. And some of the damage I'm going to stop first. With the person I can control is me. And then because I can't or choose not to try to control you because I feel like that's impossible, it's a waste of my energy to try to control you, I just put boundaries. Do what you want to do. Here's what you need to do. If you want me to choose to give you access to my life, you need to, I can't tell you, you got to respect me. I can't read your mind. But what I can say is if you don't treat me with respect, I close access. Gate closed. Your combination to this code is gone. Reactivate it. Why? Because if you think that you can treat me with disrespect and I let you into my space, I'm part of the abuse process. I'm part of this abuse cycle. I'm part of it. If I am responsible for me, if I'm not trying to make you be responsible for my grown ass, then I am responsible for setting boundaries. And if I can't set good boundaries because I'm too busy reaching for you because you're part of my drug of choice mix, then the only way to fix that, the only way to fix it is for me to start doing some different. That usually doesn't happen though till folk get sick and tired of being sick and tired. I'm tired of feeling this way. I'm in these relationships with these people. I'm tired of feeling this way. I'm trying to force somebody. And I'm saying, well, why are you trying to force people to do stuff that don't you want to be in honest relationships with people? Let them be who they are honestly. You giving them goodies, trying to make them behave a certain way. All my children are adults now, but I didn't play that I'm gonna bribe you to do right thing. My kids know. I just bribe you to do what you're supposed to be doing. This is your obligation as a family member of this household. I am not about to bribe you to do what you're supposed to do. Because then, what you gonna do next time? I gotta have a better goodie next time. And we do that in ways. I need you to feed my addiction. Now I'm hooked on this thing, but now that ain't working so well because I'm getting worse. And you didn't put the price up. Your price is too high. I ain't willing to pay that in exchange, the energy in exchange. And part of this is about, but we don't know how. I can want to, but I can't live that. You can tell me now that you're not in the midst of that.